We will now again invite Dr. Sunder Iyer to talk to us for about an hour, after which we will have a half an hour tea break, and then Dr. Iyer will answer some of your questions that you have written on the leaflet.
Sairam. I'm glad to see most of you back here. That's a good sign. Once again, thank you again for this opportunity and allowing me to share some more of my perspectives. Before I forget, there were quite a few of my brothers who came up to me and said, "You said something about wanting to know what happened inside Swami's room, and then you just left us hanging there." So, let me begin from there and see how the session goes. Well, so that was my question. I mean, so we saw Swami out in the darshan, but I always wanted to know how he was, what he did when he was in his private quarters. Who was Swami when he was alone? To make it very simple, I want to state this statement that Swami often says: when I am among women, I am a woman. Among men, I am a man. Among children, I am a child. Alone, I am God. And believe me, I saw this in action. When he was alone, he was no different. In fact, far more intensely divine than what we would have otherwise seen him in darshan. We saw an intensity in Swami, all the more into what else is next to work on. He was somebody who believed in work day in and day out, with no sign of any rest. I mean, what would Swami do generally? Every moment of his waking hours inside, he would be either talking to some ashram people about what is going on, who is coming, who is going. And we had Dr. Alreja in the general hospital at those days, when the hospital was a small hospital up the hill. He would come and Swami would say, "Okay, who are the patients who visited you? What are their problems?" And he would want to know every small little detail. And as a doctor would give him, say, so-and-so came, Swami, and she had this gastric problem or something, and what medicine you gave? Okay, he'll listen. And then suddenly he'll turn around and pick out a couple of vibhuti packets and say, "Give this to her." So he would keep it on his left pocket. And then who next? Then he'll relate one more patient who came in that day probably, and some other story about how that patient he treated. And Swami would say, okay, who next? And suddenly again he'll turn around and give 2 or 3 more packets of vibhuti. So he'll say, "Give this to that person." And then Dr. Alija would keep it in his pant pocket. And then he will continue like this. And each time Swami would reach out, he'll keep it in different parts of his, pockets. In one pocket here, 2 pockets there. So I was there witnessing this for a few days, and then, it got the better of me. I'm like, it's from one basket. He's just giving the vibhuti package. Why don't you just take it all one, and then you decide how many people you can give? Can you not give it to more people than what Swami said? You have to go and give to them separately. So when he came down one day, I asked him, "Doctor, आप ये ऐसे क्यों करते हो सब?" Swami, he speaks Hindi. He's a very jolly guy. I mean, he's again one more person whom, when Swami says silence, he will start laughing loudly. Like Santa Claus is. He just big laugh and Swami, "Shh, keep quiet, don't laugh like this." And so I asked him, "Why are you doing this? Why are you taking each one and keeping?" He said, "No." And Swami says, "This is for so-and-so person. This will have something for that. If this is going to some other person, this will have for that. This is meant for that person." And he was very particular. And in fact, he told me how Swami would question, and I was again a witness to this. The next day, Swami said, "Did you give that person? Where did you give, from this bucket or this bucket?" Because Swami will smile. He knows he's taking all this like that. Swami said, "Yeah, just not a chudu kutti." But later on, Swami said, "You couldn't You gave her from the right pocket." Swami said, "This pocket, Swami, I gave it to that woman. This went to that other person." Good. So I never knew whether Swami was jovial or pulling his leg, or whether they had this this relationship where he knew, but he took it very seriously about whom to give. And that is what I saw in Swami, that for the lack of any word, every master, as Paramahamsa Yogananda writes it, he says the idiosyncrasies of a master. It's so unique about him. There are certain things which are very unique about Swami, which you can't explain. A normal, logical person will not do such things. He'll be very particular about who gets what. And if somebody sends a gift, he'll be very particular where that gift will be placed in his room. So, oftentimes we have had some devotees send a big box or something. It will be for students, or maybe it will be a box of cameras. They would just send it. So when we open it, Swami will say, "Ida akkada pettu." So even if you take it like 2 feet away, he'll say, "Dunda pota, ekkada pettu cheppana, akkada kada, ikkada enduku pettunavu, akkada pettu." Like Swami, there's just 2 feet here and there. So but he was very particular that it has to go in one particular location. And I would never figure out why. I never understood why. So I mean, later on when people said, "Oh, they found Nike shoes in Swami's garden," I said, "My God." They didn't face Swami. They would have known. Swami said, "Keep it there. That's it. That's where it has to be. Let whoever finds out later, I don't care. It has to be there. Shoes have to be there." Musical instruments, Swami would give boys. He has given tablas to boys. He's given Yamaha keyboards and all that. But they will be kept in certain places in the mandir, and they cannot be moved from there. He will remember that after 5 years. He'll say, "You remember when you were cleaning that time? You put it there. Let's go see if it is there." So it's fascinating how he was a person, for him every little thing mattered, and I think that made him more divine. There is a quote in the Vedas which says, "Anoraniyan Mahato Maniyan." God exists in the smallest of the small and the largest of the largest things, right? In the smallest of the atom and the largest of the matter, he exists. Here, Swami would pay attention to the smallest of the smallest detail, and yet he would be managing huge projects, multi-million-dollar projects and mega projects, multinational projects. He'll be handling that, yet he will not lose sight of where what is placed, why his handkerchief is here and not this side of the chair. He'll pay attention to very small details. Now, I think I mentioned these in the interviews also in Soul Jones, but it's worth mentioning here again. And I found this to be a very unique trait in Swami, and which showed me how he lived every moment. For him, every moment, every action he did was very important. So, let me quote a couple of them where I thought, why would Swami pay so much attention to the small detail? My father's 60th birthday ceremony had come, and Swami had told me that, "Tell your father to come tomorrow, I will give you all and speak to him." Because my father was always working in the ashram trust, and he wouldn't even come for darshan. He would say, "Swami has told me my duty, that is my duty." So he will be working there, he won't come for darshan. Occasionally he'll come out for bhajan or something like that, but otherwise so Swami had to send word anytime he wants to speak, "Tell your dad I want his darshan." Under darshan kostunnaru, vaallemo akkada kujani pani chestunaru, he would say. But my father said, "That is my seva, I want to do that for Swami." So he took it very literally, very seriously, that Swami is giving me a task, I have to do it. And he was very strict about it. That's why he had those stern faces in the ashram. My dad was one of them. I would tell him, "You scare the devotees." He had to stick glasses, he will see like this through them, the devotees say, "Sai Ram." But luckily he didn't have to do any of the crowd control, that they would have had a tough time. He was in the accounts section. But he took it seriously. I mean, Swami has told me, this is my job, this is my seva. And for him, his ideal was Sri Kudumbarao Garu. Now, Kudumbarao was another old devotee, he was previously the ashram secretary. He was another karma yogi. These people worked day in and day out, non-stop for Swami. They didn't care whether they had darshan or anything. Swami said, "Do it," means they will go absolutely, they themselves will do it. So there is no delegation of tasks when it comes to Swami. So when he would tell us, we would be standing and Swami would say, the bag, he'll give a brown bag. It could be anything. It could be currency notes to be given to somebody. I don't know what it could be. We don't open it and see it. He'll say, so and so person is there in West Prajanti. Go give it quickly. Now I cannot go down and say, "I have some other workmen. Swami has told you to give this. Can you just pass it on?" I cannot do that. I have to go all the way, give it to that person, come back. Swami will say, "Did you give it? What did that person say?" And so he would pay attention to every small detail. I remember once, for no reason, Swami gave me a bag, a brown bag, He opened a brown bag. He had put a couple of currency notes in it, folded it, and said, "So and so is there. They're leaving. Go give it to them quickly." And I knew there was a lot of money. I said, "Oh my gosh, okay, I better run." I was scared carrying so much money, so I ran down, went all the way to Prashantilayam, West Prashanti or wherever it was. Went upstairs and went to this particular place. The Swami told me. I asked for this person by name. They said, "Oh, he's in that room." I went, "Are you so and so?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Swami has asked me to give it to you." Now they seemed to be very poor people. So he took his Swami. He was very surprised. "Oh, Swami, oh." Then he called his wife and his daughter, and they opened it, and immediately they started crying. So curiosity got the better of me. So I just stood. So I just said, "Swami came Chapala." He said, "Swami, you." Then they started crying, and he said, "Please," said, "Thank you, Swami. Please tell him." I said, "Why? What is it?" He said, "My daughter's wedding, and I needed money, and somebody told me, go to Sai Baba, I'll give you everything." I came. He didn't even look at me. I was somewhere in the crowd, and I said, "This is a too rich Sai Baba. Where will he think of me?" And he said, "Idanta mana kalle manam vellipotamani mem malli ippudu vachama ippudu nu vachi naaku istunavu Swami ichara meeku." So he asked me, and he says, I was thinking, this is a rich Sai Baba, where is he going to look at us? And I was somewhere in the crowd. He goes back to his room and he says, "Let's pack up, we can't do this. I mean, this is not going to work for us." So they're just getting ready to leave, and I'm there. Swami said, and look at the rush here. He pushed me, "Go, preach." So I ran. I could have missed them if they had left the ashram. But then they broke down crying, and they probably got what they wanted. It's fascinating. But Swami would not, it would be very natural. "Oh, you gave? Okay, what happened?" So when I took the money, for example, in this case, and went to him, I thought they knew Swami, and Swami had told them they'll give. Maybe they had an interview earlier that day. I didn't know this part of the story. So I'm coming back completely flabbergasted. Oh my goodness. Which part of Swami is this? He just gave it to me as if, "Oh yeah, I told him in the interview, let me finish off that day's task, some checklist in his Outlook calendar or whatever he had to do." It was so normal he did it, but it was such a fascinating story. It changed somebody's life there completely. Maybe he went back to his village, and this whole village listened to the story and said, "Oh my gosh, this is what happened." Who knows? But he would pay attention to little details. So when my father's 60th birthday came, he said, "I'm going to call them tomorrow." So in the night, Colonel Jogara, who was there, he was also working close with my dad. He came to our room with a bag. Swami will pick up anybody to give things to anybody. There's no high and big for him. Colonel Jogara, where he went to Sunder Iyer's house, nothing like that. When you're going, that's it, give this to them. So Colonel Jogara came to our house. My father was, "Oh, please come," and all that. So Colonel Jogara came and said, "Oh, Dandapani, what? You have done some magic with all your pujas and all." Because my father was very strict in his ritualistic worship. Even then, every morning he'll get up and he'll do Narayana, and he'll do all that. Every morning his Gayatri and his pujas and all that. And never left him till his last day of his life. So my father said, "What do you mean? What? I don't do anything." He said, No, listen, see what Swami has sent you for your 60th birthday." So he gave my father a dhoti, the white sheet that Indians wear, the dhoti. And then he said, "See, what I was surprised is," and he handed over the sari to my father to give it to my mother. He said, "The Swami sent it to for your wife." So when my mother took it, I was there in this room. So he was saying, "See, so I was sitting with Swami went to the cupboard and opened the cupboard, and he's looking at the cupboard and thinking, Sunder Iyer's mother is our color, little brown like her. Which sari will look good on her?" So Colonel Jogara is saying, I was thinking, if you give any sari, they're going to be happy. Why would you think now which color will suit which skin? But at that minute detail, it's not like my mother was some VIP or something. Nobody at all for Swami to spend that time. But for him, when it came to giving, he put all his energy into that even that one little gift. That is who he was, not to impress anybody, not to set an example, not that he expected some transformation. He expected nothing. But that is who he was. So even when we went to Madras once, and we were with Swami in his room, and Swami spoke to some sari merchants, because they would come and donate in hundreds of saris. Swami's birthday, how he would donate saris. And Swami said, "Dhoti I can give, men won't care. Saris I have to be very careful." And so he actually got these people, he sat with them, he's giving it, he's not charging, he's not doing a business there to see what my clients will like, He is sitting and he is going through this jerry will look good. Okay, you give me this, then this is bagaledu, and he will select what he wants to give. We would be thinking, why is Swami paying so much attention to something he's going to give everybody? But he knows exactly which sari is for what. And even in those things, I've seen my mother's friends and others telling me, Swami didn't give me a sari. And later on, he called them separately. He said, I didn't give you purposely because that sari is not for you. I got another color for you, and gave them 2 days later. And 2 days for them, there was fully introspection and cleansing time. So that was another sadhana they went through. And then Swami comes, adanta kaadu. Yeah, the color wouldn't have suited. I'm giving you a new one. Take it. This is how he was. This is how playful he was. But it was the same Swami inside. Swami would spend most of the time reading letters. Whatever people gave in this mandir and this darshan time, he would come. And those days, we'd have envelopes, so we would stack it together, all the small ones on one side, just so that it's easy for Swami to pick up. And the whole time Swami would be sitting and reading. That was his novel, that was his pastime, that was his hobby. If you will, he'll be reading. And suddenly he'll get lost in one letter, completely get lost. He'll fold his eyes afterwards and he'll just close his eyes and sit with his eyes closed for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Then nobody will disturb him. If somebody comes down, we'll say, we don't know. Because some VIPs would come down and say, can you tell Swami I've come and will he grant me audience now? So we would go. But when some times like these, which are very many in occasion, where he will just be sitting with his eyes closed. Or he'll be sitting staring at, there was a small figurine of Shiva and Shakti in one corner of the wall. Somebody had gifted him one wall hanging. But he would oftentimes sit and just stare at it, as if he's lost somewhere else. But his eyes would be fixed on that. And those are moments we dare not tell Swami. We will just go stand there. He'll appear that you will think that he's just sitting and he's lost in some daydreaming thing. Then you will know that this is not the time at all. You just quietly come back and you tell somebody, I think Swami is busy, not right now. So watching him individually was again watching, you couldn't understand him even more. It's not like we understood, that is what Sai Baba does. No, what does he do? I have no idea. But he was like that. And yet he would pay attention to every small detail. He would be very insistent of what went where in his house, in his rooms. He would be very particular. And there were some old idols which were there when he was young, I think Puttaparthi idols and all. He'd be very, very particular who touches them and who places it where. Now don't ask me why or how or what is the reason, I have no idea. And then when he would give some of his old stuff away, he will be very particular who gets what. Now it's not like some older thing, okay, you take it, you take it, you take it. Then he'll pick it up, he'll look around, okay, you take this. He'll pick up and he'll look around, you take this. It will be very particular who gets what. So I got the feeling that for him everything mattered. Every word he spoke mattered, every action of his mattered, and he was conscious of every action. He was always in the moment, absolutely in the moment. Eating wise, exactly as he would do in our hostel when he would come, he would just sit for 5 minutes and get up and go. Same thing inside. He would hardly eat anything. It is, by the time Aarti, Aarti Swami gets up Aarti, right? They wave the Aarti. Now this is when the bhajans were held right in the bhajan hall in Mandir. He would turn a few steps and go into his room, right? So the Aarti is always, he never stood for the whole Aarti. So by the time Shashivadana started, he would be going back into his room. By the time Aarti ends, he would have finished his dinner and he's going upstairs. Believe me, that is exactly how he would go in, he will touch something, eat, Narayana at home, it's almost like, oh, Aarti is ending, I have to go back upstairs. It's almost so rush he will be. To the extent that he will have guests with him for dinner. The poor guests can't eat because Swami is getting up. They'll wait. Some of the VVIPs, I won't mention names because I'm on camera. After Swami goes, they'll come back again. I want some more prasada. I didn't get a chance to eat at all. I'm very hungry. So they'll go back and eat some more. And of course, Swami will make sure they eat. But that is how he was. He would hardly eat anything. And his favorite was watermelons. So in the hot afternoon, summer afternoons, Radha Krishna was there at that time, really close, like Satyajit. He was taking care of Swami on a very inner and a very personal level. So he would say Swami likes watermelons. So I was expecting a whole big bowl because when I like something, I like it in a big bowl. 4 pieces of watermelons would go up. I'll say, come on, give Swami some more. He'll say, if I give one more piece, I'll get into trouble. But he likes it very much. So if he liked very much, he would have 4 pieces of watermelon on a hot summer afternoon. That's all. Or maybe a half a glass of watery buttermilk. The ones with you put some coriander leaves and salt, but it's very watery. He likes that for the majiga and this thing. And on really hot summer afternoons, when even inside he'll be wearing the silk robe and there'll be only a ceiling fan. So this is what his eating habits were. I mean, it was fascinating to watch him being so strict, disciplinarian, first of himself, then even before he spoke to others. Silence for Swami was really silence. There is no compromise on silence. It's not like a silent workshop where we can show actions. I went to a silent workshop where first everybody started seriously. Then they said actions are allowed. Chits were passed. Actions are allowed. And after they said whisperings are allowed. So in the end of the 2 days, everybody was normally talking. Because then they said kids are allowed to talk. So slowly diluted. Because they found it's impossible to maintain silence. But in Swami's presence in the mandir, oh my gosh, it was with Prashanti. He took that word Prashanti Nilayam very seriously. It was not just a name to given out there. Either Prashanti Nilayam. Prashantanga undala. And he would never raise his voice. He would expect us to be extremely quiet. And even if we do like this, from upstairs, he will say, he'll go up and say, hey Mahindi, are you catching a cold? Go drink water. Swami. We will be scared to even clear our throat. He'll be very, very, very cautious about everything that we did. For me, those few months that I was there, it was like getting trained and being in the moment, because you had to watch every step. You had to watch, because you turn like this, some noise will come. Because you had to clean the room, clean the interview room, clean Swami's chair, and you just can't go finish it off. It has to be done very gently, quietly, because Swami's upstairs. And so you had to do everything very carefully, place things exactly, softly, in its place, exactly the way it should. He wanted it. And the amazing part is his divinity was almost like it's bursting to come out. For example, once the president was expected for Swami's birthday, and Swami said, keep it clean, president is coming, interview room should be clean. It is always clean. We never found any reason to clean it. Swami said, baga manchiga clean cheyandi. So we cleaned every possible nook and corner, we thought, and we had it ready. And Swami came. He came down the steps. As he was coming down the steps, lazy. So we knew we were in trouble. Whenever Swami say lazy, dunna patta, chi means we are in trouble. Oh God, what happened? So as he was coming, it's a circular steps down. So as he was coming down, he said lazy. So we said, I don't know what is going on. So he came straight down. He held my hand, took me to the corner of the wall. He said, look up there. One cobweb is there. There was a cobweb. I'm like, how did we miss it? And more importantly, how did he know? He was upstairs. He was in his room. He was supposed to be taking a rest. How did he know what this cobweb? It's amazing how he would come out and straight away, lazy. You only eat and sleep. So you have to be awake all the time, alert, and watching out for what he would come out with next. It was exciting on one side, but it was extremely scary also on the other side. This is how I saw Swami's personality. But the other serious part of Swami was how intensely he was involved in his mission. Every single matter in ashram mattered to him. He wanted to know. For him, birthday comes, he'll be very happy. Shivratri comes, for some reason, Swami's mood would change during Shivratri. He will be running always some temperature, or he'll be in a very frisky mood when it's Shivratri time. When it's Guru Purnima time, he'll be extremely benevolent. He'll be just wonderful to be with. It's not that other times he isn't, but you get my point. But Guru Purnima will be all the time, Bangaru, this thing, that thing, very blessing, it's a completely different phenomenon of Swami you see. Shivratri time, everybody wants to be away from Swami. For some reason, every single thing he will lash at you. And you don't want to be anywhere close. We'll push each other, you go man, I'm not interested. So, and birthday time, Swami will again be once again very benevolent, very happy, very beautiful, and very graceful. Always, let's see what to give next, what to give. Oh, students are coming, what did you eat? And always feeding you. Suddenly he'll decide to feed you all some days, and you'll be like, Swami, I can't eat anymore. Hey, eat. So every day was different with Swami, honestly. But what I noticed for me was it filled my heart completely. That's when my curiosity turned to devotion, and devotion turned to love, and later on led to surrender to Swami. Because then I saw, if there is a God walking on earth, I want this to be my God. If there is a guru walking, I want this to be my guru. In and out, he's exactly what he says. There is nothing else now to examine anymore. I've seen this person in action. So every day I only grew to respect him more and more and more. And that respect turned to adoration, and adoration turned to love and attachment. And then I found myself like all others running Swami. I was craving for Swami, taking pictures of Swami's hand, edge of his robe, everywhere possible. I had a big collection. There was a point when Swami encouraged me to all that. And then came a point Swami started saying, okay, enough of all this physical attachment. And then led me to more different experiences. But so to answer the question as to what did go on in that room, there's so many things that went on in that room. It's fascinating how Swami would express his divinity to each of his members, especially when it comes to those days in ashram, and they would bring problems of devotees from somewhere. Somebody wrote this letter to the secretary. He would say, Swami, somebody wrote to me this letter. And Swami said, this is what you're supposed to do. Okay, prasad isthanu, send this prasadam to him. So every possible way, he was all the time, what can I do else to serve the world? And he was so keen on his mission. He would love to go out for darshan. He would love to meet people. How many times if I give you, a couple of $1 million, maybe 1 week you'll enjoy doing it. Where you just go get people and listen to their problems all the time. Come to bhajan hall, listen to all Daya Karo, Kripa Karo songs all the time. Everywhere you see people are just yearning. After a while you feel tired, you say, okay, I'm done. I need a break. But he didn't. He would love to do that. As if that this is what I've come for. This is what I want to do. He would be itching to go out for darshan. And of course there will be some very sweet times when just before going out, he'll look at us and say, am I looking okay for darshan? Just check and all that. So we'll say yes or no. There were sometimes he had to look at his robe and say, Swami, your Pitambaram is a little torn. Okay, people won't see it. I'll hold it like this. So very sweet. Those are very sweet things. But you can't take that for granted. And next time look at Swami. Swami say, what are you looking like that? You can't do that. You just have to be patient and go with his play. Go with his mood. Go with his leela and just play. Because after a while, I realized we were seeing a phenomenon in action. This was not a human being. Because he didn't think like a human being. He didn't appear to be logical in his thinking. He didn't appear to be quote unquote sane, the way we would consider. Neither was he insane. But he was something above all this. He had emotions which are far greater than I could think of. I could even imagine to see. He was not a typical guru, and yet he was something very divine. He was something very intriguing, something very mysterious about his personality. Something I can never understand. And all I could finally say was, I can't understand, so let me go with it. Just let's go with the flow. Swami would ask us to, when he sits down, sometimes in the evening, he would say, come press my feet. So we would start pressing his feet. After a while, he'd say, you are going to eat food? You're not buffaloes, can't you press harder? So we press. So we start pressing harder. He'll say, harder. And he'll go back to reading. He'll say, I will send you away. You can't press. Yes, Swami, harder. After a while, his forearms will go completely numb. It will pain. And he'll say, harder, 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 harder. Luckily, he didn't do that every day. But we'll be so terrified after that, we will go next day, we'll say, I've done it, I don't want to do Fat Seva, please. I can't believe I'm saying that now, but at that point, there were many days I myself said, there's no way I'm going to Fat Seva. I did it yesterday, now it's your turn. That guy said, come on man, I did it day first day, you go. Because we were terrified, 45 minutes of hand will ache. And if you show it's aching, Swami will say, Ayo Papa, okay, go back home. So no, Swami. So it's a matter of, how much can you give me? Oh, you wanted to serve, come on. But he didn't explain all this. It was just, that's who he was. He wanted Path Seva, and there were sometimes he will just ask you to sit but not touch him. If you touch him by mistake also, he will look at you. So angrily, why did you touch me? Don't touch, just be there. So there were moments where he didn't want you to go anywhere close to him. There were moments where he wanted to do Path Seva. So there was something very intriguing. You never knew where you were with Swami. There was one day, there was a session of this Bhagavata, I think it was Bhagavata, when one Pandit would come and give everyday Bhagavata discourse, and then Swami later on would come and summarize it with his discourse. I think it was a Gita. So Swami would, in the afternoon, Swami would call him up. And there was some fantastic exchange between him and Swami. Because he was a Gita Pandit in Gita, and it was Telugu. But by then I got to understand a lot of Telugu. And Swami's Telugu was more or less Sanskrit, very pure, easy to understand. And he would engage in some very nice discussions between this Pandit and him. And so one day, this Pandit came and he said, please tell Swami that I've come. So I went upstairs to tell Swami, so-and-so Pandit has come. So when I stood near the door, normally we just stand near the door and he's about 10 feet away. The room is not very big. It's probably at the edge of that stage there, right here. So he said empty. So I said, Swami, so-and-so Sastri, your child. Huh? He said, empty? So I took 2 steps. Swami, so-and-so Sastri has come. What? Won't you leda? Gettiga cheppu. Means speak loud. Did you have food today? Like, this is normal. She's right there. So I take 2 more steps, go close. Swami, so-and-so has come. What are you saying? And this is real, okay? It's not like he can't hear me anymore. So I go really so close into ear and I raise my voice and talk like you're talking to a 98-year-old deaf grandfather. So-and-so has come. Brahmani chappu. So I said, oh, thank God. So I was thinking, and this is what's going on in my head. I am going down this time. This is that exorcism year, like when they did the exorcism on Swami when he was young. They said one of his ears are affected. I don't know, maybe is this the one? Maybe I should have gone to this side. I was thinking all this. Anyway, so he came, I sent him upstairs. A little later, Dr. Alreja came. I went up. Now I knew the drill. So I stood near the door. He said, what? I started walking straight in. I was like, hey, Undu. Again, the same old. When I saw that, I just froze. Because those days I was a little new to Swami. I didn't know what was happening. I just froze in fear. He said, what do you want? And in fear, you just, scarcely whisper, Swami, Alreja vacharu. Ramani cheppu. I'm like, you heard it now? How did you get it now? Just 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you heard it. But this was not as if he was, I didn't know he was playing at that point. It was as if like, who am I dealing with? Who is this? But you can't hear sometimes, he's yelling at me, now he's nice to me. What is this? So those were times you realize, oh my God, who am I dealing with here? I can't even place him. So it's very funny. Swami sometimes will be really prankish in his movements. So when there are VIPs around, he'll make them look somewhere, he'll look at me and make faces at them. And then he'll be serious. So it's just very playful. I mean, it's occasional. And he will think, he'll look at me. Very sweet. Every aspect you can think of, it is almost like, he gets into a mood, he becomes one with that mood. If he becomes a prankster, he just becomes a prankster. If he becomes a serious guru, then he's that. He just becomes one with that. He doesn't put on a show to do that. For him, it is there. I don't know what energies were flowing in that body of his. I don't know what neurons were firing, how nobody has ever understood the actions of the avatar. Leave alone his thinking, the way he looks at it. I have no clue. There will be times, like I said, he'll be just staring at the wall for hours on end. There'll be times he will come out down to go out for darshan, his eyes will be blood red. And I remember once, especially, we thought Swami had conjunctivitis. To that extent, it was red. So my friend Suresh was looking at him. Swami said, why are you staring at me? I said, Swami, your eyes are red. Go. So first we step out and then Swami will come out. So we stepped out. We were like, oh my gosh, Swami is going to come out with those red eyes. He stepped out, he said, no red eyes, nothing. There's absolutely brand new Swami coming out. I was like, wow. I used to get scared. Who am I dealing with? Maybe I'm better off in the hostel. So I was excited on one side. I was excited that this is really a power that I'm trying to understand. What is this happening here? And it wasn't like he was wanting to do it. This is who he was. It just changed something, some phenomenon. That's why when Ted Henry asked me, there were people asking, why don't you call him an avatar or a god or incarnation? I think it's very easy for us to put those labels, especially when we don't understand what those labels mean. I think none of us, at least I can speak for myself, and pardon me, I take that back. I have not understood what the term God means, seriously. Or what does this mean? What is an avatar? I mean, who comes from where? I have not understood these things. So to put that label on him, I would rather say that he's a phenomenon way beyond our understanding at this point. So whether he's a god, his avatar is a 10th avatar, the 12th avatar, and there are more avatars coming after him, all that is our theories. You're going to explore that. But I can know for sure that there are phenomena in the world, in the universe. He was one of them, and he has sparked this curiosity for yearning more, that spiritual growth. He sparked it within all of us. That if he can do it, where did he come from? Where is this divine power originating? Where is this power? It's all around us. Why don't we experience it? What is stopping us from experiencing it? And again, going back to his own path that he showed us, it's the simplest of paths. He says, just chant the name of God. Even the highest intellectuals finally came down and said, chant the name of God. I think that is the best way. And the example is Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara, for those of you who don't know him, he existed 2000 years ago, around the same age as Jesus in the Indian history. And he was the one who understood the Vedas, who understood every single essence of all the scriptures that were there. And he has written fantastic treatises on the Vedas and the Upanishads, and each of his treatises, you'll take your entire lifetime to understand one of them. It's fascinating what he's written on Vivek Chudamani and Atma Shatakam and all that. He came up finally and he said, what did he? He said, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. And I want to sing some of those verses today, simply because Swami would love Bhaja Govindam. So we heard, Swami said, Vice Chancellor's Conference is coming. I think it was 85, we were just talking about it. I think it was around 1986 or 87, there was a Vice Chancellor's Conference. Now that the university was established, he wanted the other Vice Chancellors to come and see what he's doing in the university. So he hosted a Vice Chancellor's Conference. So from all neighborhood universities all across the country, people had come. And so he called us, a few of us, and he said, what can we, you want to do some drama or music program, what can we do? So music program was already there. And because all Kumars sing well. I don't know how is that. S. Kumar, B. Kumar, Ravi Kumar. I should have had my name Kumar. Name change. I wish I. So all the Kumars were there. Somebody said, yes, music program, practice well and come up. So those lucky guys got a chance. During those days, I was more like a slogan bhajan singer. I wouldn't know about Shruti and all that. This is all I learned in the recent past. Just practicing bhajans on and on and on. It took me 50 years. What it took S. Kumar 1 week. So that's okay. I enjoy that. But anyway, so they got that. And then Swami looked at us and he looked at me and he said, what about drama? What drama? Can you write a drama? Can you come up with a drama? He said, yes. And then later on, Swami said, a long time in Vrindavan, Principal Narendra wrote a nice drama. So we can do that again. So then he didn't mention the name, and he said, let us on this wild goose chase. So we called up Vrindavan, and we found that Principal Narendra, those some 10, 15 years ago, before that, had written a play called Bhaja Govindam. So we got that play, and then we said, okay, let's go through the script. Then he said, oh, this is too drab. So the Bombay thing was still there. Let's make it a little flashy, a little more action-packed. So we rewrote that play. And fortunately, this time Swami loved it. So we rewrote that play and added some more action into it. And for each stanza, there was a meaning. And the next 2 or 3 weeks, in the course of discussing each of those stanzas and each of those meanings and how it can play in a drama, and in discussing it with Swami, or rather listening to his advice and how he shaped it, it is one of the most fascinating chances we had with Swami, sitting and listening to him explaining Bhaja Govindam, to him sharing just the wisdom, which is fantastic, it's phenomenal, in such a simple thing. And he loved each of those verses. So he chose each different boy to sing differently. And Hirok, who played the Bhaja Govindam, as Shankara himself, he sang many of these verses. Swami loved each one of them. And I think there is a reason for that, because these verses have phenomenal truth that we all face in life. And yet they say the only way out of this, the phenomenal truth, I said, the everyday truths that we face about the ups and downs in life and all that, what we look at it is very real to us. And Adi Shankara faced those truths. He wrote about it. He said, yes, this is it. But then what is the way out? Bhaja Govindam. Sing the name of God. Lose yourself in God. That's the only way out. That is the only way out. So I want to share some of these verses, and I'll see if I can relate some incidences which appeal to me and make sense to me in this Bhaja Govindam. So Can we? I'll sing the first verse. 1.5. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mugamate, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mugamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshati Tukhan Karane, Nahi nahi rakshati Tukhan Karane, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. So the first scene, and I explained this meaning of the stanza, it's very powerful. So the first scene is we got a pujari, he comes and he sits early in the morning and he's doing some grammatical chanting constantly, just blindly chanting. You know, like we discussed in our last song, just mala chanting and putting tilak doesn't take you anywhere without love and devotion. So this is we show a guy who was walking and Swami loved him. Swami said, do it, it's so funny. Swami kept laughing. Look at this pandit, he's sitting there. Swami is very childish. When he watched the drama, he became one of the characters. So we were villains in one drama and Swami didn't speak to us for 1.5 years after. Brother Mayur knows it very well. Because both Mayur and I did this part of the villain and along with 2 other brothers. And Mayur is in Canada now. So it's fascinating to listen because he would think, how could he act so well? How can there be smoke without fire? So, you all Bombay, Patavasalan, Inko only, Patavasalan. Swami Led, no, Patavasalan only. Because in that drama we had to pretend as if we are smoking and we did a good job because we wanted to act. So we got into trouble, very bad, very severe trouble. 1.5 years he kept on telling everybody whom we met, these 2 boys, very dirty boys. And much later, during our PhD days or something, when he took us somewhere, some VIP, that time he said, you know why I have not talked to you? Because all those 1.5 years he didn't explain to us. He was telling everybody else about us. Finally, he broke the ice. He said, you know why? Because of the drama. How can he act so well? I said, oh my God, 1.5 years, that drama you're talking about. That's why you're angry with us, thank God. But then we said, Swami, no. He said, no, that vasana, you got that vasana. That's why you can act. So then, what he said, that he made a great statement, and this is crucial for us organizations when we present dramas. We tell kids, focus on the positive side, don't focus on the negative side. Because Swami said, even in my dramas, I don't want my students acting as if they are spoiled. Na students atla cheste na chala kashtam avutundi. My students, I don't want, even in drama, to act like that. So for him, that was real. Why do you even want to act negative? Think of the positive side. So when we used to write dramas, we liked the climax and plots and villains and superheroes. So leave the villainy aside. Why are you focusing on the negative thing at all? Just focus only on the positive aspect. So initially, though we didn't understand it, later on we came to appreciate it, how important it is. Because in the drama, we are rehearsing, we are practicing, we are thinking to act like a villain. Why do we need to do it at all? So, before I lose the trend of my thought. So going back to Bhaja Govindam, he's like this kid who's like, oh, the pujari is going to come, he's doing some funny actions. And so he would come and pretend to some, the typical grammatical thing. He would be chanting and then Adi Shankara walks by with his 12 disciples. And then he stands and he says, oh man, what is the use of this constant chanting without any meaning to it? Why are you grammatically just chanting on and on and on and on and correcting the grammar and the intonations and worried about how to chant it? That is not going to save you. What is going to save you is Bhaja Govindam. Chant the name of God, don't waste your time in something which you can't focus, understand what even you are doing. When we were discussing this part, Swami spoke to this guy who was acting as a pandit, said you are doing good, when in the acting and all, we had a good time. And then Swami said, what is the real meaning behind it? You might be thinking, oh, I don't do this grammatical thing, I am Swami's devotee, I'm okay. He said, no, anything Anything, even you are doing bhajan, if it becomes a monotonous thing, it becomes no different from his grammatical chanting. Any puja, if it becomes monotonous, it becomes another grammatical chanting. If it loses the essence, if you are doing just for the sake of doing it, every morning I have to do my chanting. I forgot to chant 3 Gayatri. Oh my God, iPad, you'll be checking all the news. And you're just chanting because you have to finish 3 times Gayatri. Oh my gosh. So we are trying to fulfill something just for the sake of doing it. It's not going to take us anywhere because it's something you're clinging on to which has no essence and the essence is lost. Correct? So I thought that was very powerful. So it is not about pundits and grammar and chanting and Veda. It is about everything that we do in life. The moment anything that we do in life becomes monotonous or we are doing out of habit. Now that opens up a whole different perception. How many things we do out of habit? Imagine, we eat out of habit. Can you believe it? Oh, 12 o'clock, I'd eat. Am I hungry? I don't know. I'd eat. When my parents used to plan a trip, they'll say, first feed the kids. I say, Mom, I'm not hungry. No, you'll get hungry 3 hours later. That time I don't want. You eat now. So we fill the kids so that they won't get hungry later. We don't listen to our bodies anymore. We are going by the clock. We just do things habitually. So how different are we? Anything becomes a habit. Going to a temple can become a habit, if it is a habit. What if you get up in the morning and one day instead of going to the office, you say, I just feel like going to the temple. I'll go a little late to the office. Then do it. Don't say, I'll do it every Thursday anyway I'm going. I'll do it. Don't miss that point. At that moment, there is a call, probably. Answer it. Who knows? So, when the moment anything that we do becomes a habit, we think our habitual thoughts are the same neurons firing, right? Those that wire together, fire together. Almost everything that we do is an instinctive reaction in our life. And before we realize, we just carry on the whole day as a robo. We are robotic in our actions. We are not in the moment. We don't awake ourselves in the moment. We don't take and say, can I establish some new neural pathways? Can I today brush with my left hand? I don't have time for all that stupid. That Sunder Iyer comes, gives a talk and goes, I'll get late for my work. Try brushing with the left hand for a week and switching every week. Can you imagine? It becomes a whole new experience. Now suddenly the toothbrush falls down every time because the brain doesn't know what the heck is going on, right? But if we can break habits, everything that we do is out of habit. At least 9.5 out of 10 things. So we are no different from that pundit. We worship out of habit. We worship out of fear. Everything becomes, and fear is more habit for us. We get accustomed to being in this fearful state. We have to step out of who we are normally. We are afraid to do that. Let me share with this, and that will lead us to the next paragraph. So Swami was talking about the next paragraph, which was Mood Jaghi Dana Gamat Krishna. That is, how much can you keep chasing your desire? You have to be content that what you are experiencing now is because of your past actions. Period. You have to realize it. And hence, in order that your future actions are good, do the present actions, do good actions now. So at least you can prevent the future from being bad. So if you're undergoing some bad action now, or bad experience now, it's because of something sown in the past. It could be the whole fear that you withheld and anger that you withheld. Somewhere, something is coming back to you in form of a new circumstance. We all know that. Psychology is discovering all this in new fancy scientific terms, but this is told to us by the Vedas, hundreds and thousands of years ago. They said, hey, what you sow, you're going to reap. And what you're going to reap later depends on what you're going to sow today. So this is, if we are not, and we do things regularly on the same thing because we are afraid to break and get out into the new. Fear, whether you like it or not, is one of the major and the biggest thing that keeps us tied to our ego. We are afraid to let go. And if I tell you now, what if you're with Swami, will you be afraid? And most of you would probably say no. I would probably jump and say no, I will never be afraid if Swami is with me. And this is exactly what happened in the interview room. We were all together and Swami was asking one lady to share an experience and she shared an experience. I don't have time to go into that experience, but and time till 2:30?
Maybe longer.
Maybe till 2:45.
Yes.
It's dangerous to give me a mic and ask me to speak about Swami. But I'll stop at 2:45. But this is a very crucial and important note I want to share, because that was a very, very good learning point for me. So this lady shared her experience, and she said the experience was Swami appeared before her towards the end of whatever she was doing. And Swami said, then what happened to you? And she said, Swami, I was so scared, I started crying. And then Swami looked at us and said, she prayed for me. I came to her, now she was afraid of me. And we were like, huh. At least I was like, wow, why would she be afraid? Isn't that what she wanted? So I was in my mind thinking, if that happened to me, I would never be scared. Because I wanted the yogic visions and all that. And yeah, I'm ready for that. Swami appeared to me, I'll be like, yes, this is awesome. That was a time when Swami had called us because Dasara festival was coming. So there were 10 days. So each day one student will talk. And so he had picked some of us, and then he was deciding who will speak when and all that. So I was supposed to speak on the 8th and 9th day, I guess. And so when my turn came, so this has happened in this interview. This just thought passed me, and I looked at the lady as if she's down there in spirituality and I'm up here. Like, how could she be scared? I mean, what is the use of these devotees? They don't understand Swami. So I was up there in my head thinking, I will never be scared. What is the thing about fear? Because Swami said, see, that is what the fear is. When God calls you, you're afraid. That is why you're not able to hear His call. You pretend you don't hear His call because you're afraid to let go and hold God's hand. So I was like, it's never going to happen to me. Anyway, that's not my message for me. So I completely ignored that part of Swami's talk. I switched off, literally. So when my turn came to speak in Purnachandra Auditorium, I was standing on the backstage. These curtains are huge. Purnachandra Auditorium, I don't know if you have seen the auditorium. These are huge curtains like these, but they're very thick and they overlap each other. And motors used to open them. So nobody can, nobody's pulling with ropes there. So the motors open them, and when they overlap to at least almost 6 or 7 feet across. There will be times when Swami will decide to come out from the center. So when he comes to the backstage, Sevadals will be ready holding these huge curtains. So when they see Swami coming straight to the center, they will move the curtain aside so Swami can step out. Just courtesy. Why would you make Swami go through that overlapping section? So that day, I was waiting there. Swami came and he asked me, are you ready to talk? Okay, yes, Swami. Okay, take namaskar. I took namaskar. The backstage. Normally we would wait in case Swami had something to say. Say something about faith today, or something he will throw a ball for you to pick up and speak on. That's how he trained us. So he didn't say anything. He said, Ram, come with me. He held my hand, and the Sevadal, and he walked towards the center of this huge curtains. So the Sevadal decided to move the curtain. He said, move away. So the curtain, Sevadal moved away. Swami held my hand and went into the curtain himself. He pushed the curtain and went into that and pulled me in with him. So I'm just with Swami. As it is, I have to give a talk in front of 50,000, 60,000 people or more. And I said, Amnu Swami. And I said, yes, Swami, I'm scared. I was terrified. And then immediately he opened that curtain. He said, why are you afraid when I'm here? He walked out. And that point hit me. Oh my God. This is what he talks about fear. He was holding my hand. He was asking me, are you afraid? I had the chance to say, no, Swami, you are there. Why should I be afraid? But I said, yes, Swami, I'm afraid. It made me so humble. At that moment, I'm like, oh my God, I am not ready for this at all. He showed me that when we think we are ready, you are not. We love clinging to our fear. Because when the call comes, it doesn't come announced. It doesn't give a promo before and say Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Record it on your DVR. It doesn't do that. It just gives you unannounced at the most weak part. I am going to talk. I'm already a little jittery. He pulls me. Are you afraid? Yes, Swami, I'm terrified. I didn't use the word terrified. I just said, Avunu Swami. Then he says, why are you afraid when I'm here? And then it struck me. Oh my God, what did I do? I was afraid. Oh my God, I wish one more chance, Swami. Once more, bring me to the curtain. It never happened. But that lesson stays with me. Anytime I think, Swami, I am ready, perhaps I'm not. Because when He calls you, fear holds us back. Let me sing this one paragraph. That's a very beautiful paragraph in Bhaja Govinda. Mooda jahi dhanagama trishna, mooda jahi Samanagama Krishna Guru Sadhutim Manasi Krishna Yalla Bhase Nija Karmopadam Yalla Bhase Nija Karmopadam Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chetam Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chetam Krishna Rama Krishna 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 Rama Radhe Krishna Krishna Rama 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 Krishna Rama Govinda Gokula Nandana Gopala Krishna Rama Rama Krishna Govinda Jai Vrindavana Gopala Sai Krishna Govinda Jai Vrindavana Gopala Sai Krishna Govinda Jai Vrindavana Gopala Gopala Radhe Gopala Gopala Radhe Gopala Gopala Radhe Gopala Gopala Gokula Nandana Gopala Radhe Gopala Gokula Nandana Gopala Radhe Gopala Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Gunamate. Swami loved this drama so much that he took us, we first offered it to him in Puttaparthi, he just enjoyed this. And then he took our whole group to Bangalore, said do this to Bangalore. And so we did it in Bangalore. And then Swami said, let's go to Bombay. So that was one of the fascinating times when Swami took a huge group of boys. We went to Bombay and spent days on end with Swami there. And he, in Shanmukananda Hall, Swami put up this drama. And the beauty with these dramas were, Swami is like that 5-year-old I said. He will tell you the end even before the drama begins, even before the scene comes up, because he can't wait. So he had these VVIP sitting next to maybe the president or whoever they were sitting next to Swami. Swami said, this scene is coming, but this scene, see, this person is going to actually fool with this person and that person, and then Shankara will come and sing the song. The president say, yes, Swami. And the curtain will open and Swami says, see, I told you. Believe me, it was very, very, very beautiful to see Swami in that. He was very excited. Oh my God, said to him, this PhD boy, that's the thing. He won't let that guy watch the drama. He'll be explaining all these things in the middle of the drama, as if he can't wait to tell them that these are, like a proud mother, think this is my kids, that's my kid, oh please let me watch it. No, but watch this. And he's going to come and sing. He's all this day only wrote and all that, it was just unstoppable for Swami to that excitement. The other thing I felt was again very, very unique about Swami was when it came to these dramas, he wanted that role who were dressed, because for him it was, like I told you, he'll become like a 5-year-old, he becomes once with the role. He thinks the Superman is real, like a 5-year-old watching. So like that it was. For him, if a Pandit has to come, he has to be exactly like the real Pandits. So it's not for the stage, So in Bombay, when the day before the drama, I think it was Bangalore, I'm not sure. So Mayur and I were the main Pandits in a villain scene. Again, somehow he always got the villain scenes. But these are Pandit villains. So there was this, our problem was we are proud Pandits. And then Shankara comes and he says, what is the use of all this philosophy if you don't have bhakti in your heart? So he sings that. But so I had to, I was one of the proud head Pandits and Mayur was another person. And the day before the drama, Swami called both of us and he said, no, you all are Pandits, but Pandits wear kankanam, the big gold bangle, they wear, and you're not wearing it. See, the thing was, these kankanams are huge bangles, okay? The thick ones. I don't know if you're talking, it's a South Indian tradition for these people to wear the, usually kings gift them and all that. So they wear, the big pandits wear that, and they are so loose and big, they put it all the way up till your forearm. It's tucked away right in here. Now the way Swami would be as pandits would be, we're covered with huge shawls. You know, all those jazzy color shawls. So once you're covered there, none of your arm or anything is going to be seen. Okay? Just your bare hands will be barely seen, that's it. That whether you're wearing a bangle, whether you're wearing a kada or as they call it the kankanam, it's really not going to be seen. But for Swami, it was very important to wear it. So we tried to say, Swami, you don't get it. So he went upstairs, he got 2 boxes, he opened it, and he put 2 gold kankanams on both our hands. He sat down, he took his hand, rested it on him, and it's a screw. You open it, and then you put it and you tighten the screw. I'll show you how to wear it. You don't know. Have you ever seen this? I said, no. So he opened it, the whole thing opens up. He sat and tied it, and then said, put it away inside like this. So I said, yes, nobody's going to see this. But it didn't matter for him. And it was never seen on the drama. It was never seen because you're fully covered. Swami, obviously, if I had lived that to show this, all my end of months, this part will be exposed, and you don't do that. So we had full kurtas up here, and then on top of that we had shawls, so there's no way that kankanam would have been seen. But Swami wanted that, because that is part of the authenticity of a pandit. He was seeing the authenticity in the drama rather than the show that, he didn't see it as a drama. See, that was fascinating for us. So, who is this person who's watching it? He's not, like we would think that he's just saying, okay, my students are doing it. But when it came to us, so are you really becoming the pandit? Are you really feeling it? You're the pandit. You have to be there. And he couldn't see you as a pandit till he made sure he's got the kankanam. Yes, he's a pandit. It was fascinating. Right? Again, with Kumar, when he acted as Radha, Kumar has a very deep, rich voice. He made him sing with his male voice. In a drama, it didn't make sense because he's dressed up as Radha, but he's singing with a deep male voice. It just didn't make sense. There were 70,000 people watching, but Swami wanted it that way. Swami said, how can you get feeling with your false voice? How can you get feeling for Krishna when you're singing? These are songs I have written. Swami had himself written when he was young. So he taught Kumar. That's a fascinating thing. Again, Swami teaching his own compositions to Kumar and kept going again and again and again with him weeks on end till he would sing the same line. We heard the same lines being sung, but Swami was not happy. No, not like that. Not like that. Sing again, sing again. For him, he was transforming something within Kumar. But then finally, he got that bhava. Swami was happy. But others were like, why is Kumar sir singing in a male voice again when he is supposed to be a female? Didn't make sense to anybody, but for Swami, it made perfect sense. So for him, that made it very evident that the reality that he was looking was completely different than what you and I were looking at. And I think that was a fundamental difference, and is the fundamental difference between a realized person, I guess, or an avatar or a Sadguru, and somebody who chooses to be normal, like you and me. We choose to be normal. We choose to kill that perception. Maybe there is another perception. We look at the same thing and we see a whole different reality. And because of that, we see things as they should be rather than how it's presented to us. When he announced, just as the college came up, within 1.5 years, he said this is going to become a university. We are all sitting around Swami. Even though we understood Swami by then, a little bit, we couldn't comprehend this. In India, you don't make with 2 colleges, you don't become a university. But 3 colleges, you don't become a university. So you have to grease the hands of hundreds of politicians, or I don't know what all you have to do. Okay? But then it is very difficult to become a university overnight. This is a 1.5-year-old college. There's probably another 2-3-year-old college in Anantapur and a little more older in Vrindavan. And Swami asked us, you want your graduation degree in Sathya Sai University or in the other university to which the college was affiliated? We said Sathya Sai University. But none of us bought it even for a second that it's even possible. We said this will come down the line. Just like we say, self-realization will come down the line. Let's focus on our career. So just like that, we thought it will come down the line someday, it will become a university. Yes, of course. But now, next year, Almost impossible. He said, no, next year you will get degree in Sunder Iyer University. We were like, okay, Swami, very happy. We took namaskar, but none of us believed, even for a second, including the closest of his closest advisors, didn't believe this. It's going to happen. But a year later, there was a Sunder Iyer University. The big team came. Swami said, get the team. Swami, the lab is not ready. The college is not ready. They come, they're not going to pass it. Call them. Okay. So again, a logical approach. What is it that they need? Do we have what they need? Nothing like that. You call them. Tell them I'm calling. Tell them to come. You don't worry about it. Science labs are not ready. They were just being built, 2 years old. So barely just getting off the ground. The university came, they saw everything in the campus, and then Swami called them inside for an interview. They came out all beaming and they said, yes, granted university. What happened in the interview room, I don't know. It was fascinating. How does one get that vision and the courage to follow? That's what made him so divine. That's what made him so inexplicable. And yet, with this power at his disposal, with this omniscience and omnipresence at his disposal, he was able to ask you, what is your name, where you come from, or just playfully say, okay, play that song. He remembers, right? When Swami would come and sit on the stage right in Bhajan Hall and simply ask Durjati to play the veena, maybe Bala would play the tabla, and then you just enjoy a nice, quiet thing. The few groups of boys around him get up and walk away. It was almost the greatest miracle for me as I grew to live with him was the fact that he was walking, that he was talking, that he was being human. That to me became a miracle rather than looking at the other part of it. The other part seemed more natural for somebody like him. But for such a person who identifies himself with everybody, who looks at you and waves his hand, but he's become one with everyone. That's why we feel uplifted. Because something within us feels uplifted. Even when we think about him, why do we feel this energy in this room today? It's because in our thoughts about him, something within us is uplifting us. I may interpret it as chakras opening, you may interpret it as a divine energy. It doesn't matter. These are again different terms and names, but then we all feel ourselves being uplifted. Because you draw his presence, his consciousness awakens you. Something deep within you awakens. That stays with you. That gives you a joy which has no words to describe. You can't put these words, put this experience in words. There is an element of peace. At the same time, there is an element of excitement, of devotion, of energy, of purity, of spirituality. It's all in one. See, I'm trying to put words to it. That's what we try to do. We're eager to put words and put it in a box and put it away. Define it as this experience. But that's what we're trying to do. But so when he comes out and he used to give darshan, he used to lift everyone by his sheer presence. Because he became one with everyone he saw. What a power that was. And how fortunate we are that we share these 5 elements with him. How fortunate we are in that in our lifetimes, in our generation, this is not we are hearing about somebody who lived 200 years ago, but who lived in our generation to show us and our children that yes, it is possible to be divine, to walk the earth in 2 feet and to be divine. It's possible to sanctify our lives. It's possible to do something more with your life than just eating, sleeping, drinking, eating, walking, talking. You know how Swami goes, eating, drinking, sleeping, walking, talking, and he goes on like this for a long time. But that everybody does that. How can you be divine? He's proved it to us. My dear brothers and sisters, may satsangs like these grow every day, every week, every month. May we share this power and energy of Sai every moment of our lives. Let us pray to him that he sanctifies our lives, gives us the energy to awaken from deep inside. Don't judge yourself and close the door saying, I'm not worthy, I'm not ready, I'm just a beginner. Don't label yourself. Let us all believe we are children of Sai. And as children, we have full rights to his entire kingdom. Just like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Swami has come to prove that the kingdom of heaven is within us. We are children. It is our rights, our birthright to inherit that kingdom. What are we waiting for? I believe we'll have a short break and then we'll have question and answer session. Once again, thank you, Swami, for filling us with your love, filling us with your energy, and be with us and guide us, our thoughts, our words, our actions, every moment, every day, every single moment of our lives. And thank you for being with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sai Ram.
We adjourn for a tea break.
Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Hara 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 Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Hara 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 Hara. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Now we will have a Q&A session where we request Dr. Iyer to come and are these the questions? I'll take this one by one and I'll see if there is any repetition. Then I will. I did have a chance to go through this during our tea break. So, one question that's come up is there one thing that we can do which will take us to our destination? The answer to that is there is no one thing that applies to everybody. Each one has to find out and visualize his destination and carve a path to it. because destination means different things to different people. Once when we were sitting around Swami, and I explained to you why it's so difficult to come up with one answer. It's easy for me to say, yes, Namasmarana, I'll take you to the destination. That's what we're talking about. That's an easy way out. But I want to be honest about it, because we need to first define what is my destination, and then define how do I get there. If I don't even know what my destination is, then I can never get there, because I don't know where I'm going. So we have to have a clearer understanding of what this destination is about. And if the destination is becoming God, then our trying to understand what is becoming God itself will take you to our destination. Just the very query, just the very yearning, just the very intensity of trying to understand what is this divinity, that is my destination. So there isn't one path that can be applied to everybody, but there is only one path for each one of us. Everybody tries every different path, just like you try different things, 15-day money back guarantee, okay, this didn't work, 30-day money back guarantee, this didn't work, 90 days, this didn't work. So it's not going to help either. Swami said, one guru, one mantra. Thanks. He said, one guru, one mantra, one path, one God. I think it's very important for us to realize. Once you take your path, just stick to it, no matter what. It doesn't matter. All paths lead ultimately to a hill if you're going up the hill. So some could take the highway and take a Rolls Royce and go all the way up. Fine. But if you're trekking and you like the adventure and you like to trek, take it. So it is not a race. It's not a comparison at all. Spirituality is a personal journey. So yes, there is one path, but you have to discover that path. I cannot tell it for you. And nobody can tell that for you. You have to discover the path. You have to discover what your destination is. Talking about destination, and thank you for that question. Because we were sitting around Swami once, and Swami said, what is the goal of spirituality? And we're like, oh, I know that. Chapura. And he said, I said, Swami, merging with the divine. Merging ante empty. What is merging with the divine? Swami, like river merging into the ocean. Some other answer came up. Oh, river merging into the ocean. Is that liberation or merging? Swami, that is liberation. Oh, that is merging. Okay, is that the end of spirituality? We're like, I think so. Isn't that the end of spirituality, of all our progress and everything? And that's like become one with the ocean. Swami said, that is not the end. The river merging into the ocean is not the end. It is the beginning of spirituality. As long as you are the river, you not become the ocean. Once you become the ocean, now you experience spirituality. So that is the beginning of spirituality. So once you reach your destination, you are beginning your journey. So it depends on what our destination is. What we think is merging, Bhavasagar say par karo, and that's going to be the end. No, that's going to be the beginning. You're going to now live in spirit. What the caterpillar calls the end, the master calls it the butterfly. We think that is the end. He says that is the beginning. So that is the kingdom of heaven, the vastness, the infinite. It's not the end. That is, we are not even begun. So that would be my answer to this question. I don't know if it's an answer at all, but I think we are not here to find answers in a group. And I'll tell you why. Again, I quote Shankara, and it's very, very crucial. Spiritual path, that's why I said, whatever I'm sharing today is my path, my experiences, my perceptions, and my path, or whatever it is. Satsang, this is again part of Bhajagovindam. He says, Satsangatve Nit Sangatva. Satsang, this is called satsang. So from being in the company, you go, the next stage is Nit Sangatva. You take this and go alone. Be in a company, but meditate alone. So you take what you learn, then go alone. Nit Sangatva. Nit Sangatve Nischalatatva. Nit Sangatve Nirmohatva. Nirmohatva means once you are alone, you will be able to remove the delusions that surround you. Nirmohatve nischala tattvam. And once you remove the delusions around you, you achieve a stillness. Nischala tattve jivan mukti. Once you achieve that stillness, therein lies the secret of your liberation. So, we are in a group, we are discussing different paths, we are exploring different paths, but take it home. Sit and ask yourself, what makes sense to me now, where I am now? There is no right and wrong path. There is no fast track and a slow track. What makes sense to me now? Take that path. Stick to that path. Follow that path. And you will find stillness and peace, and you will find your answers in that path. There is no doubt about that. Sairam, please give us a background and a few details during time in the 80s when some of the boys were leaving Baba but you stayed on. Thank you for that question, but I don't know how relevant it is. This is something happened in the past. People left Swami, and some of us chose to stay back with Swami. Then it was time for us to move on. I never left Swami, of course, but we were trying to move on. It's very difficult for me to comment on people who left or people who stayed back. But then I'm commenting on somebody else's relation with God, and I have no rights to do that. So I will just pass this on by saying that hundreds of people have come under, thousands I would say, millions I think, have come under the umbrella of Swami, and each one has taken Swami's flavor in his own way. You know, Swami had often told us, I'm only a gardener, I'm scattering the seeds. Some may sprout today, some may sprout 10 years later, some may sprout 20 years later, but they will sprout. My seeds never fail. So if he has touched somebody, if he has looked into somebody's eyes, if he has blessed somebody, that is going to take its own fruition in his own lifetime. Then you and I consider this a lifetime. When we are talking what happened in 80s and 90s, he looks at us. He looks at us through lifetimes. So how can we even understand who left Swami, quote unquote, and who stayed with Swami, quote unquote, again? We think we are staying with him, but every choice we make which is against Swami, we are leaving him. People may have left Swami, but now every time they think of Swami with memory and cherish those memories and repent, maybe they are back with him. So we cannot say who left and who stayed back. It's really not relevant and important for us to understand somebody else's journey to this extent. We can take the inspiration and go, but staying with Swami, I'm very humbled with that. I'm very humbled with the fact that you cannot play with fire. When he decides who stays with him, it's decided. When he decides it's time for people to leave, they leave, no matter what. I think you were sharing the experience. Swami said, when are you leaving? No, Swami, I have no intentions of leaving. And next day he's taking his plane back, right? The idea is, you didn't even have the thought, but he knew it's going to come. So it's a very humbling experience being with Swami. So that would be my response for that question. When people go to Fort Lauderdale Sai Center, the newcomer gets scared by seeing too many deities because it's in a temple. I don't know how to answer this question. If the newcomer is a Westerner, I can sympathize with them because they're not used to seeing altars and temples and deities. And unless somebody orients them and prepares them what they can expect, they are going to be in a state of shock. But I don't think any Indian or anybody who knows about India, who studied Hinduism, who would come and be really afraid of. So this probably pertains to Westerners who come and maybe they're taken aback. This is a common experience I have seen with Westerners throughout the US. I've had friends who wanted to attend a Sai function, but they say it's a little weird for us to see all this jalap waving flames and have all these altars set up. So I can sympathize with them. Now, this is because in the temple, then you take it somewhere, and then you say, okay, they're scared of altar, you remove the altar, then what else? Where all are you going to compromise just because you want to please somebody? I would think just be who you are. If this makes sense to 9 out of 10 people, go with it. If one person is scared, fine, he'll find his answer. Leave it to Swami. There are ways Swami will reach out to them. There are people who have had Swami's dreams and seen the strange, weird-looking afro hairstyle, red robe figure. If Swami decided, you know what, This can scare a lot of people. But it didn't. Correct? It didn't. Afro hairstyle, red robe, he is who he was. So if it makes sense to you to have an altar, you want to light incense, just do it. If most of you like doing something, just go with the flow. People will ultimately appreciate the energy that is felt in the room. They carry with it the energy. It's not whether you're having altars, whether you don't have altars. And if you start compromising to please somebody who may get scared, then let you draw the line. So this is, I think this each one of us has to explore and understand where this goes with. From your personal experiences, which one was the most that made an impact in your life? I have two of my favorite ones. One was, I have each one of these lessons come to me every day in some point and refresh my thoughts. So really it's a very difficult choice between choosing. But there's one that, one was the snake bite incident, which I thought I'm going to die, and then Swami just wished it's a thorn, it's not a snake. I think that was a very powerful incident for me. So for me, it was like how he could just will it. It was a sheer proof of his energy and power. And the other one was when my father passed away in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. Swami was in Kodaikanal. At the very same moment, he told the boys, if you know Sunder Iyer, his father just reached my feet across thousands of miles. So I think those things really shook me because they were very personal to me, both of them. And they were direct proofs to me that that was the ultimate for me to accept Swami. There's no questions after that because that showed he was beyond time, beyond space completely. Not only just proving omniscience and omnipotence, but saying, reached me, my feet. I am the one who's willed it. And to tell me, I will never say it's a snake bite, it is always a thorn. And for those of you who don't know the story, it's a long story. I mean, maybe Lakeworth, if you have time today, I can share it. But otherwise, it's there in the Soldiers.
I sent the link on both of these stories that you just mentioned.
Those are very powerful stories for me because it really shows beyond doubt that he truly valued what he spoke. And it made an impact to me very powerfully. Can you please tell us some histories with Swami in the private room? I just did. I'm running out of the stories unless I have to make up some. But it was just these. I honestly, I can't think of anything at this moment to add on. But it is simple things like these that taught me that Swami was something far beyond our understanding. He was not a normal person. He didn't eat like a normal person. He didn't sleep like a normal person. He didn't behave like a normal person. But at the same time, on the one side, he was very loving, gentle, kind. On the other side, he was very childish. Suddenly, he becomes a god of his own. So it is fascinating to watch this complete array of moods that would swing back and forth in one person's personality in one day. Completely, it would shift. And so that's who Swami was. We can never understand that. And if I do ever think of, so I'm really racking my brains to come up with something, but I've not. I think I've shared most of it here in today. So I'll leave that question to that. Namasmarana, when you say repeat the name of God every day, all the time, please give me an example, mantra or name. Again, choose the name of your choice, choose the form of your choice. And it doesn't matter if you like Om Namah Shivaya, continue with Om Namah Shivaya. How does it matter? Whatever appeals to you, there is always something that touches you more than the others. It's a very personal thing. And if you listen to your own self, you'll know this is my favorite mantra. I like to chant this. For many years, for me, Om Namah Shivaya was my favorite mantra. It just stays with me. Even now, it does something to me. It could be because as I was a very small child, my parents used to take me to satsang and I would lie and sleep off on my mother's lap. But I'll be listening to these bhajans and chants. Maybe it had a deep impact. I don't know. But some of these mantras, and my father would always chant Om Namo Narayana every morning from the day I was born. We would try to bury our head under the pillow at 4 in the morning. In Bombay, flat, in Bombay, the living room becomes a bedroom at night, and morning it becomes a puja room. So we are all in one corner. Everything is in Bombay. Everything happens in 1 or 2 rooms. So Om Namo Narayana is again something which always awakens me when I listen to some beautiful bhajan somewhere, and the word Narayana touches something within me, some chord within me. Again, the word Panduranga, Vittala. So for me, I have too many favorite names, and it doesn't matter. Because all these names are taking you and awakening you, and that's all you want, that spark. You want the spark to be lit. How does it matter whether that spark is lit with a matchstick or with another candle or with a gas lighter? It doesn't matter, just light the spark. So you could have a favorite bhajan that just goes on and on and on in your head, and after a while you want to switch the bhajan. Go ahead, switch it. Namasmarana should be common. It doesn't matter what name you choose, what form you choose, because all of them lead to God. So I don't think, and if there was one name and one form, then Swami would have given us all one name, one chant, one mantra. He never initiated anyone into the mantra, correct? Except the Gayatri, and that he announced to the whole world. He broke all the traditions of India, and every Hindu tradition, he blew it open that day when he said, everybody chant. There's no higher caste, no lower caste, no woman, no man. Everybody is enlightenment. Enlightenment is everyone's birthright. Chant together. Om Bhur Bhuswa, Tat Savitur Varenyam, Bhargo, this brilliant Deva I meditate upon, may he remind my heart. So he opened it up to everybody. That is the only time I heard him chant one mantra and say, this is good for you. So if there's one mantra you want, he has given it to us. Take it home. But when you chant the Gayatri, which is again one of my favorite mantras, understand each and every syllable and word. Understand what it means. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha. The 3 words. Beyond the 3 words. Tat. That which is beyond Bhur, this gross and subtle, the causal words. Tat Savitur. That Savita, the name of the deity, Savita. Varenyam, worthy of worship. Reverential. That deity, Savita, who is worthy of worship, who is Bhargo, who is brilliant, splendorous, like 1,000 suns, Devasya. So that Savita who is worthy of worship, who is brilliant like 1,000 suns, Devasya Dhimahi, that deity I meditate upon. So when you understand that, every time your mind is opening up to this brilliance, every time you're saying brilliance, brilliance, you're bringing that brilliance into your head, into your system, into your nervous system, into your body, into your psyche, into everything. You're opening up to this immense brilliance. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Many times I just stop it here because it's so calming, right there. The Dhiyo Yona Prachodhyat, may you illumine me, becomes immaterial for me. And sometimes I just say, Om Bhur Bhuvaswa Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. You invite the most splendorous, infinite power through this. Open up your doors and invite. And once it fills you up, that's it. Dhiyo Yona Prachodhyat automatically happens. You feel an illumination happening in the room. And then you go again and say, Om Bhur, because you love that experience. Bring it back again and again. That is how you chant it 3 times. It's a fantastic meditative experience. 3 times. Understand the meaning. But if you focus on, oh, should I do Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha? Do I do the Suvaha or do I do Suvaha? It really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't be that Pandit who was just focusing on how to chant it perfectly. It's good to learn how to chant it. Going to that chant, why was the Vedas, why did they play an importance to the chant? There is a meaning, there is an importance to that. But before I go to that, I want you to understand the spirit of Gayatri is very powerful. And Swami himself has initiated us into it. I mean, he's initiated his entire generation into it, literally, if you will. There's one mantra somebody asked me. I didn't have this idea in my mind. As I spoke, this came to my mind. So maybe Swami wants me to say this today. This is the mantra we have to take home because this is the prayer of the ultimate destination. Somebody said, one path, chant this prayer, maybe that is the one. Maybe that is the one. But if you need to understand, if you need to chant it and benefit from it, you have to understand what it means. If you understand what it means, then 3 times of the chant will fill you with so much joy and energy that you will be ready to face the day and take its challenges upon. There is a reason why there was a chant in Vedas like this. I mean, These people, this is Vedas was developed, Vedic times was a very advanced time. They knew about the 9 planets. They knew Pluto was not a planet. Now they're saying, oh, Pluto is not a planet. I can almost hear the Vedic Rishi saying, duh. It's fascinating. The distance between the earth and the moon was written in Vedic mathematics exactly as it is today. What the science has discovered. So it's somewhere down the civilization, somewhere down in history, we have lost immense amount of knowledge which is being rediscovered. They knew astronomy, they knew astrology, they knew magnetic influences of Saturn. They knew thousands of years ago that Saturn is the slowest moving planet. It's the furthest away. They knew Pluto and Neptune are too far away to have any magnetic influence on our lives. So they said, let's not even consider that in astrology. But they never thought astrology is used to whether you want to buy a home, you check with your... They didn't go there. Astrology was more of a much larger science. It was not about whether you win your lottery ticket, whether you can take this job, whether you lose your job, and what. That is how we have interpreted because of our priorities have got all mixed up. So they discovered astrology, they discovered astronomy, they discovered Vedic mathematics. It's fascinating. As you can see, they discovered the 360 degrees, they discovered the 27 stars around the moon constellation. It's fascinating. Where did they get this knowledge from? So when they had put that this is how it's chanted and this is how we want you to chant, there is a meaning. And the way I have understood this, there are 2 theories that is going on in my head, it's how I made peace with this. One is this was so far beyond in time that music was not discovered then. First, Vedas were given by pure intuition, right? I mean, the infinite spoke to people. They were completely they were the one with the ocean, literally, as it were. And they were beginning. So, before the 7 notes were discovered, there were only 2 or 3 notes. For them, that was music. Like if you go to Aborigines and you ask them to dance, they will do this. Right? So this was a great dance for them. And they'll clap maybe here and there. So this was a dance. But now we know how dance is evolved, if that you call that evolution. We don't know. So there's a chance of how, before maybe the notes were not discovered then, 7 notes. So for them singing it was just 2 or 3 notes. Ni sa re sa, ni sa ni sa re, sa re sa, ni sa ni sa re sa. This is one theory. But what I would like to believe, and I think which is more true, is the other one. They use this chant constantly because in Sanskrit they used words which resonate in different frequencies. You have the sa, you have the la, you have the kla, you have the klim, klim, reem, shreem. So each one had a different frequency that triggered in your brain. Now, there's a science called science of brain entrainment. Now, when you listen to any sound constantly for 8 minutes, your brain entrains itself to the frequency of that sound. That is why when you listen to ocean waves, after 8 minutes it starts entraining, you get into alpha wave mode. That's called brain entrainment. Music plays a very important role. When we listen to bhajans, why is the Indian kirtans very important? Because you have a manjira which is a different frequency, you have the tabla which is a different frequency, you have the human voice which is a different frequency, you have the harmonium which is... So you're appealing to all the different frequencies. So your brain is wanting to go in alpha wave, but then the manjira is a beta wave, it's keeping you sharp alive. So there's a fantastic combination in Indian music. And that's why you're peaceful, at the same time you're awake, you're passive, yet you're completely focused. It's a perfect combination to lift your spirit. That's what we experience in a bhajan. In brain entrainment, so when you continuously listen, so I think they knew this pattern. And they said when you chant these Vedas continuously, just in this, using these different combinations of all the bijaksharas and everything continuously, your mind will automatically be calm. And believe me, even if you don't know to chant, if you're in the midst of somebody chanting, within 8 to 10 minutes, you just feel like closing your eyes and simply listening. The chant has a very hypnotic effect because it's continuous, it's monotonous. To me, that means it prepares you to go deeper. It doesn't give you liberation right there. So it is important to that extent that it sets your mind now in a receptive mode. You're awake, you're alert, yet you're completely, deeply entranced. You're focused, you're in a mood to receive. And that's when magic happens. So there is a meaning for these chants. So there is, to an element, you have to pay attention to how the Gayatri is chanted. Because you constantly keep chanting, you will get into that same receptive mode, deep trance mode, where you become one with God automatically. But it's more importantly, as Swami said, understand the meaning, get the bhava into it. But without bhava, without love, without yearning, it doesn't take you anywhere. After that trance, for a few days, that trance will become a normal event and you will start saying, oh, okay, what next? But if you have the yearning along with it, every day, believe me, in our deep subconscious minds, God communicates to us. You all know, we all get significant dreams in our life. We can't deny it. These are moments of communication with some centers of consciousness which is deeply embedded in us. And there are some dreams which are simply fantastically intuitive. Only you can understand it. You tell it to somebody, you're afraid to even share it because they think you're crazy. But there are some dreams which are fantastic. So there are ways divinity communicates with you. There are ways once you start opening up, it's fascinating how many ways the divinity will touch you and communicate with you. So if you're looking for one prayer, one mantra, one chant, I think Gayatri is the greatest. Because if there's any one mantra Bhagavan has given us, it's the Gayatri mantra. Please explain a little more. God speaks to you in the silence of the heart. In your last interview, you made the statement that Baba is neither God nor man, but a phenomenon beyond human comprehension. Please explain a little more. Let me take the last one. I think what I meant, if this is what you're looking for, what I meant when I said that Baba is a phenomenon, I use the word phenomenon because I just had no other word to explain. And the reason why I didn't use God and avatar is because we are too quick to use those words. We have used divinity, God, avatar so frequently, so often, that it's almost taken for granted. And we have been using it without understanding what it is. That has been my perception. So I thought, let us open our mind and think, what if we come across somebody whom we have no clue what it is? Where does he come from? Who is he? What is he talking about? So if he's representing that unknown factor, that God within us, then that is it. So there's only one way to explain Baba. I just call him Baba. He's a Baba. He's a Sai. I think there's no, it's a lack of word. That's why I use the word phenomenon. But I didn't mean to limit him or describe him, because it's indescribable. There's an anonymous quote I read once on the internet, and I like it. It said, God is more truly imagined than expressed. God is more truly imagined than expressed. Doesn't end there. But he exists more truly than is imagined. God is more truly imagined than expressed. But he exists more truly than imagined. I love that. Even beyond your imagination, there is a force that is alive, and maybe that is our reality. So how do we even bring that into expression? When we had a religion and spirituality seminar, and I was preparing all the notes, and those days Swami was talking, so I was hoping he would ask some and get some tips from him, and so I can participate in this debate versus religion versus spirituality in the college and establish myself. So I was hoping I'll get some tips from Swami. But he never bothered. But the day before that, he called me in, and I took all these papers inside and kept it right in front of him, thinking, it's a Pradi, what is that? He never looked at it. He spent 45 minutes, he didn't look at it at all. So I was like, Swami, why is he now asking about this? I'll see Swami, tomorrow is my seminar, and it's religion and spirituality. Swami, please tell me what to speak, and he might tell you something. He didn't say anything. And so he said, bhajan time. I bent down to take namaskar, and Swami said, what is that paper? The what is all that? I said, Swami, religion, spirituality. Religion, spirituality. That's all 2 words I used, because there was no time to explain too much. Swami said, empty, what? Swami, religion, spirituality. He just told to keep it down like that. Then he said, what is God? I was going to tell, no, I want about religion, spirituality. Where is Swami going? I think he didn't get it. Swami, what is God? Swami, God is love. So I was like, let me get over that. Let him come to, Swami, God is love. Antena, inka? Anything else? Is that all? Swami, God is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. I thought I'll use some big words and impress Swami. Swami said, when you think of God, are you thinking of God or are you thinking of words that describe God? I think you're trying to think of which word you to use. I started thinking because it was true. I was trying to use some words after the is. So I looked at it. What language can you describe God? I thought, must be Sanskrit. No, wait, maybe Hebrew, maybe Greek, I don't know. Should I open my mouth? No. Swami held my head, pressed it down. He said, close your eyes, listen to the language of your heart. I closed my eyes. He said. I didn't know what to do because I was conscious of Swami sitting there, but I said, let me close my eyes. He said, God is Adera answer. Ade answer. That is answer. Like, what was the answer? Just said, God is Ade answer. God is Nadu. God is Ade. And tarvata vachidanta in me imagination. All that words that you use to describe that is how you limit it. The more you try to describe the is, the more you're limiting the is, your concept of is. Swami said, God is spirituality. Explaining the is religion. I was like, oh my God. And he said, and he went to the window, he started looking out and he said, when you experience God, that is spirituality. When you share that experience, it becomes religion. Because that experience which is beyond thought and word, you're bringing it into words. Appude limitation. Then people follow you, you become one real leader, one religion. Another person gives another experience, he another religion. So there are so many religions. But experience is only one. Sharing is different. So Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The Gita said something else, the Veda says Aham Brahmasmi. So one thing leads to the other. They're all sharing different experiences, different religions are born, and spirituality is one and the same. I don't know what led me there, but I think that also answers God speaks to you in the language of the heart. I think we have in the silence of the heart. I think the beauty of the silence and communion with God is in silence. It's a very, very difficult task because we are taught from our child to ask for something if we need something. Right? We teach our children, ask, say please and say thank you, and we are very proud we teach them. And it's nice, we learn it that way. We need that. But then with God, it's a whole different thing. You don't have to ask because He knows. But I want this. I want it. How do I communicate? We are desperate to find an expression to the wanting. But all He wants is let go of that wanting. I know it. Just like we tell our adamant child, just wait. I will give you that chocolate. Wait, calm down, sit down. Daddy, I want. Shh, I'm not going to give it to you. Wait, you know the child wants it, but she's full of I want. Hey, relax, calm down, sit quietly. Okay, I'll give you. I do that with my doggy. So the idea is, God knows you want it. You don't have to go on yelling. So then He stays. He says, okay, let him stop. Just like you would do with your child. Remember that. He waits. Once you're tired and you're silent, I give up. Then he goes and picks up that candy bar and gives it to you. Because he knows you always wanted it. That, to me, is the silence of the heart. In that silence, the communication takes place. In that silence, the intuition is born. In that silence, the flash comes to you. In that silence, the answers are presented to you. In that silence, you receive guidance. We often fail to find that silence. We often fail to come to that silence. We're too full of it. We're too full of, but silence, I want it, Swami. Please, no Swami, please. We're so full of our own, please, and making so much static and noise, it doesn't go anywhere. We can't even hear His speaking. And He can't hear us because of our actions are so noisy. But if we say, this is what I need the most today, and I know that my largest self knows this. So let me let go of that. So if you let go of it, you'll get it. Isn't that ironical? But with Swami, it is that. But you can't let go thinking you'll get it. Because you're not really letting go. That's why it's so tricky. That's why it becomes a Zen. That's why it becomes a koan, it's a riddle by itself. How do I let go to get it? But unless you let go, you won't get it. And if you're letting go because you want to get it, you won't get it. I'm just playing with words here. But you got it. The message rather. But it's very crucial. That is the secret of surrender. And I hope to remind me to share the story of surrender. It's very nice. I didn't get a chance to share it in the interview today. We'll do that. But the idea is of letting go. That means quietening. But once you let go, there's nothing to ask, right? Even in our most weakest moments, in our most saddest moments, we feel like, oh, Swami, why? Don't resist it. Just let go. It needs strength for us to let go of us. Swami was telling us a story about how one guy was being pushed, caught up in the stream, and he was being carried away, and he was yelling for help, and then he found a dead piece of a bear. I think he was hugging a bear, and he was going past a dead bear, and the river was crashing him on the rocks and he said, oh my gosh, help me, save me from this bear, save me from this bear. So his guru said, just let go, it's a dead bear, let go. He didn't never let go of the bear, he just kept clinging to it and said, help me, Guru, please help me. Guru said, just let go. I'll give you the branch to hold, let go. He didn't let go of the bear. So we are holding to this bear, this ego of ours. And ego, I don't mean pride, just our image of who we are. We hold on to an image. Right? When you look into the mirror, who do you see? Do you see an Atma? No, we don't see an Atma. We see ourselves, oh my gosh, this must be yesterday's chapati I ate, oh, this must be the oil, getting too many pimples. All the funny faces you do first thing in the morning. That's what we see. But do we look into the light, into the eyes, and just see the divinity there? And feel, you know what, life is good. We don't. We're worried about how we look, how we are going to be, how. So we are caught up in this image of ourselves, and we are re-emphasizing and re-strengthening that false image, unfortunately. So we are holding on to this grip of this bear, and then when Swami says, let go, I'm waiting for you, let go, and hold my hand. We have no hands to hold him because we are clinging to who we are. And that's why when he caught me in that curtain and asked, are you afraid? I said, yes, I'm afraid. Yes, I'm afraid. Though intellectually I had conceived the idea of surrendering to Swami, I had conceived the idea of answering his call. When it came to action, I was far beyond what I thought I was ready for. So we need to ask ourselves every day, where does my day revolve around? Does it revolve around a spiritual idea, or does it revolve around a materialistic idea? I think we need to ask ourselves every day. Do I prepare my day and revolve it around this time I use for worship? Is that my most important part of the day? We need to examine ourselves. And what is my most important part of the day? Watching TV in the evening? I don't know. Is it which part of the day is most important and why? And can I move that around? Can I make something else the most important part of our day? For in Puttaparthi, it was very easy for us. The most important part of the day was darshan. Evening darshan. That's why I began this bhajan with the darshan. But that's where our day began. So we had darshan, we'd all go back to our rooms and have somebody, every one of us will have some introspection to think of. Whether Swami looked at him, or spoke to him, or smiled at him, or went past him, or kicked him in his knee and went past. Swami will do all that kind of things. Or stamp somebody's finger tightly and walk away. Nobody else will know all this. But everybody had something little to take home. So our day began and revolved around the darshan. But here, where does our day revolve around? It needs to revolve around something. Does it revolve around an idea? So do I give time for that idea? If my day begins in meditation, then the rest of the day, am I preparing it for next day's meditation? Or am I saying, oh, meditation over, thank God, now let me get back to something else. And then come back and say, why I can't meditate? You can't, because you never prepared yourself the rest of the time to meditate. You are preparing yourself in a whole different direction. So we need to ask ourselves that question. We need to find ourselves, am I slowly and steadily focusing all my energies into the direction that God has laid for me? And if I am, then slowly divinity starts responding. He is there with you. Every step you walk. Imagine God being by your side. He is there even now. Trust me, as you drive back home, He will be there in your back seat. Don't look back while you're driving, please. Have your wife or husband look back. But He is there with you. Trust me. He's there with you every step you take in life. And I'm realizing it more and more every day of my life, I know that, oh my God, Swami, you had been with me through this whole thing, and where I am today is because thanks to you. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how he guides you and he guards you, because that's why he came to this earth. He established himself in a human form and touched each one of our lives. It's not a coincidence. Out of millions and billions of people that walk this planet, a few hundreds and thousands and millions have chosen him. And we are in his aura. We are in his aura. So don't come to me and tell me you are close to Swami, I'm not. No, we are all actually, 1,000 years later, nobody will remember whether you were 10 years later, whether you were 50 miles away from Sai Baba lived. No, you'll all be part. If you meet somebody who says, I was with Krishna, what would you do? Did you get interviews or were you outside in the courtyard? I'm going to ask him that. And they say, wow, you actually saw him. That's all matters. So it all depends. Let's not compare notes here. The fact that we are all under his umbrella today, in this moment, is because we have spent lifetimes for this experience. Let us not lose it now. Thank you very much for your patience, for listening to me for such long sessions. Thank you again, Percy Bhai, for allowing me, for giving me this chance. It was such a pleasure to meet and talk to every one of you. I don't promise I'll remember most of the names, because I've got another 2 centers in the next 2 months and I meet so many people, but I'll remember you, and I share the love that you have, and I share it. I go back home very humbled, at the same time very proud that I met Swami's family.